Hey guys, what is up? Today's been a crazy day. You have the inauguration, you got Martin Luther King Jr. Day, and I do plan on in the future, every week on Mondays is going to be like a Marvel Monday, but today I decided to do something a little different, and today I have some hopes that I want in this new year. This next 4 years are going to be a lot different than the last 4 years. I'm very optimistic. I think good things are heading towards us. And there's just some things that I am hoping for in this year in Nerdom in 2025. And that is what this video is about. So it's almost like a late New Year's kind of patriotic kind of video. So I hope you guys stay tuned to their very end, hopefully. And I hope you let me know maybe some of your hopes for Nerdom in 2025 as well. So without further ado, let's get started. I want them to bring back patriotism in stories again. Simply, can we have Superman have his mantra back? I know everyone wants to say it's truth, justice, and a better tomorrow, but that's just relativism. It really doesn't really mean anything. And to me, it means so much more if Superman's mantra is truth, justice, and the American way. It gives an actual objective reality of what Superman's values are that we can actually compare and look at and challenge versus, saying a better tomorrow. A better tomorrow could be whatever the reader or whatever the writer wants it to be. I think that, and it doesn't challenge and it doesn't really mean anything. It's just relativism. It's kind of silly. And so I think we're in a new world. I think we are wanting optimism. We are wanting hope. We are wanting these things. And why not give that to us and just let it be what it was, which is truth, justice, and the American way. I think there's things to be proud of for this country. I don't think there's nothing wrong with saying that. And yes, Superman can be a superhero for the universe. He can be a superhero for the world. But he's also the superhero of America. And I hope that they bring that back at DC. The second thing is, can we have a writer who writes Captain America that actually loves and cares about this country and doesn't hate half of the country? I was blown away when Ta-Nehisi Coates was the writer of Captain America, because I was like, isn't he like a Marxist? But then two, isn't he the one that mocked a bunch of people or mocked people who died during 9/11? He has a bunch of different opinions, and he's allowed to have his opinions. I think he's allowed to tell stories. He's allowed to write comic books. He's allowed to do all those things. But why is that guy writing Captain America? And I remember it actually made me stop reading Marvel for a little while when he, made the Red Skull basically Jordan Peterson, who at the time was only telling and trying to help men become better men and talking about them clean your room, he was genuinely just trying to help men be better and have better lives, and it was being compassionate towards men. And then Ta-Nehisi Coates conflated that to him being a Nazi and him basically being the Red Skull, and was basically saying that helping young men is bad. It's like, Marvel, who do you think is buying comic books? The majority of them are men. And I don't know, just that messaging is off. And ever since then, if you look into who they usually hire and who they've been hiring to write Captain America, it's a bunch of people who either hate our country as a whole or hate half of America, which I don't think is good and I don't think is healthy. And I'm not saying they need to make a conservative write Captain America. I'm not saying they need to make a libertarian write Captain America. But I do think they need to hire someone who doesn't hate half the country and actually loves our country. I think those are pretty simple things to address. I think those are pretty simple things to look for. And I hope that's something that Marvel will do in the future. The next thing is, I don't think, and I hope that Paramount, for example, and the people who oversee and tell stories with G.I. Joe, I hope they're not ashamed to say what G.I. Joe is. G.I. Joe is the real American hero, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think that's something to be celebrated. I think that's a cool thing. I think that's what makes G.I. Joe cool. You know, people wonder why G.I. Joe hasn't been able to work. And the reason that G.I. Joe hasn't been able to work in movies and live action is I think they're too scared to make it something to be proud of. You know, it's like they can't make a decision, and you know, it's either a shooter movie and they don't acknowledge the elements of it that make it really cool. You know, they make it almost like a CIA spy film, and it's a combination of a lot of things. G.I. Joe should be a more comic booky version of Top Gun Maverick and Mission Impossible. That is literally what G.I. Joe is, but with also the added thing, which kind of comes with Top Gun Maverick, is patriotism. It's the real American hero. We should get back to that. There's no reason why Japan, honestly, has the most American patriotic character right now in All Might. And there's no reason for that. All Might should not be the number one American hero, and he's not even made in America. He is a Japanese hero. Come on, guys. We can do better. We should do better. And those are some things that I'm hoping for when it comes to patriotism in America, dealing with Nerdom in 2025. The next thing is more unity. I think more unity in a lot of ways. You know, I know that there's a lot of, and I was trying to think of the way to just to say this, and I've actually recorded this video a couple times because I wasn't really happy with how I was trying to get to this point. I think this is the answer here. I understand that the majority of writers in comic books and the majority of storytellers in Hollywood have a certain set of beliefs, and I know they may contrast with a lot of Americans today. And so what I would just ask is for some verisimilitude. Okay? I would ask for some balance when it comes to your storytelling and how you tell stories. You know, I know there's disagreements when it comes to the police, okay, for example. But is every cop an evil person? Can we get away from that? Can we get away from the monologues where you pick this hero that's super beloved and you have this other hero completely dress them down, tell them they're garbage, tell them they need to apologize because they have wrong thing. They have the wrong belief systems, and that person should subscribe to their belief systems because their belief systems are right. And then never give the opportunity for that character to ever have their thoughts challenged. To me, it's preachy. It's shoving your ideology in people's throats. And it just gets tiring. And it's killing. It's killing, and it has been killing the industry for a long time. And I think it's evident. I think we all know it. And there's truth to the fact that Landman, for example, on Paramount is like the number one show right now. And it's a dude who's dealing with oil, the oil industry. You get what I'm saying? Like, the world's different, and not everyone, and honestly, the majority at the moment, the majority of the people don't actually totally agree with some of the things that you push and some of the things that you say. And so all I'm asking is to take a step back, look at stories the way they used to be told. You can still present your ideas, but make sure you're presenting the opposite people's ideas, and then let the reader make their own decision about which idea is true and which idea is right. You know, it's like, can we not get back to that? Even freaking like Alan Moore, who's like the most leftist person in the world, still took the time to tell a character so well that was more right-leaning, and he tried to make him look terrible and all those things. And guess what? Rorschach is like one of the most beloved characters in comics by a lot of people because he did such a good job telling that character's story. And some of the things that he did with Rorschach, actually in moments, he was right in certain moments. which shows how good of a writer Alan Moore was and how important it is to have balance when you're telling your stories, to not only challenge the reader, but to challenge yourself as a writer. And so I hope we bring a little bit more unity. I hope there's a little less deconstructionism, Tom King. I hope there's less just destroying these characters and not being able to put them back on the shelf for a new writer to grab. Like, who wants to write the next Adam Strange story? Like, Tom King destroyed Adam Strange. Made him a bottomless, coward loser. I remember, really getting invested in that story and then reading the end and being so annoyed. And don't even get me started on some of the things with Mr. Terrific. But it's like the deconstructionism, the pushing of certain values versus other values. And then lastly, what I would ask for unity on is, and this really comes, because you guys control the industry, it really comes down to you guys being willing to open the door and allow this to happen, is allowing other people who you don't agree with opportunities to tell stories with these characters. It is an open secret that's not a secret. We all know that if you especially express, a more conservative, normal views, that your chances of writing comics or your chances of telling stories in the entertainment industry become smaller and smaller and smaller. And not only can we see with things like Landman that that's not the correct way to actually do business, it's actually morally the wrong thing to do, And so I want to get back to the day, I think I may have even said this during this video right now, which is like, I want to get back to the day where Denny O'Neil and Chuck Dixon could come together and tell a really awesome Batman story. Why can't we do that now? Why can't we have two people at Marvel and two people at DC who don't agree with each other being able to come together and tell an awesome story? Like, give me Dennis Camp and then give me, someone who would totally disagree with Dennis Camp and have them come together and tell an awesome story. I want that. I think a lot of people want that. And so I hope we get back to something like that. And, this one is going to be more back to the, positives. But, check out something new. I know we like our characters, we like the things that we like. But, at the same time, if industries don't do and, take us for granted and they don't give us what we want, I think we have the right to look elsewhere. And so, if you're not happy with some of the stories that Marvel's telling, or if you're not happy with some of the stories that DC's telling, check out something new. You got your, other companies like Image, you got, Boom, you got Distillery, you got all these different things, but you also got the Rippaverse. You have just indie creators, different people. I had this book out for a reason. I was going to just show it real quick. This is what I supported this year in crowdfunding. Ghost of the Badlands by Razor Fist and George Alexopoulos. It's a really good story, a really cool Western type story. The art in it is fantastic. I mean, just fantastic art. A little spoiler there, I guess. But fantastic art, really good storytelling. And I absolutely loved it. Absolutely loved it. I'm really glad I purchased it, and it's not something I usually would purchase. I don't usually purchase a Western comic book, but, I'm more of a superhero guy, but I read this, absolutely loved it. I bought my wife and me Something is Killing the Children, and I don't remember who does that. Maybe Boom? Does Boom do that? But I read Something is Killing the Children, horror comic, loved it, thought it was really, really, really good. So, I hope that you guys take the opportunity to check out new things, read new things, watch new things, and find some other things you are interested in, besides the things you're always used to. And I think that would be really, really great. And lastly, I hope that we show each other a little more grace in the year of 2025. I do think the future, and it's one of the reasons I feel more open to even doing YouTube again, is, I don't want to always crap on things, and I also don't always want to just act like everything is fine. There's a reality here where we need to be authentic about what things actually are and be honest about that, but we can still be hopeful and we can still be encouraging. And I think people desire authenticity. I think people desire honesty. And I really hope that we get a little bit more honesty, and I hope that we can show each other, and I think by doing that is showing each other a little bit more grace. I don't think every single person in the comic book industry is these terrible people who want the worst for you. I also, and in the movie industry and all that, I also don't think that all the fans, absolutely hate your guts based off anything you do. And if you just move this or do this anything differently, they're never going to be happy, and they just want to complain all the time and hate everything. I think fans genuinely do want to love these stories and do these, and to participate in this fandom in a really positive way. I do believe the majority of fans do want that. But at the end of the day, the companies have to earn the respect of the customer, which is the fan. And so I do hope there is a little bit more of a balance there, where fans and the people who make these stories can come together and be a little more positive to each other, work together in a fun way, and support each other in a fun way, and give the readers what they want, but also readers give a little grace to all these people. They're not all like just these hateful people that want the worst for you. And some of them still are. And the person I've decided to give grace to, ironically, no matter what, there is some writers who, if they do certain things and they, say they hate my guts because I have a different political opinion, then I may choose not to read them. But the one person I'm trying to stick with giving grace to is Mark Waid. Mark Waid basically said that, in his view, because I think anybody that disagrees with him politically, I think they're all like extreme right to him. Just from the things I've read from his commentary, they're all extreme right to him. And he's very politically left-leaning, and that's fine. But he literally said he wanted like the industry to burn. He wanted the industry to burn if more conservative people who he just considers all to be extreme right, if they got to be a part of the industry, then he just wants to see the whole industry burn. So for someone like, for example, Chuck Dixon, if Chuck Dixon got to be back in DC, Mark Waid would just not be happy with that. And I don't think that's right. But Mark Waid has been writing World's Finest, and World's Finest is gives me everything that I would ever want. He also wrote Kingdom Come, which is the best story one of the best stories that, I've ever read, especially a DC story. It's probably the best DC story that I've ever read. And I want to show a little bit of grace to Mark Waid. I would love to actually talk and interview Mark Waid one day, because I do think that some of his, beliefs are pretty extreme. I don't think he, totally believes things that are actually true. And I would like to maybe speak to him one day to see if, that some of that rhetoric could be kind of pushed back a little bit. But he is the one person I've decided to give a little bit of grace to, especially this year. And I'm really hoping that a lot of people like him can kind of take a step back and go, okay, maybe half of America isn't these terrible, horrible, evil people that I believe them to be. So, I think that's not too much to ask, But I think that said, I hope, and this is kind of the last thing, that the creators of the things that we love, the comics, the movies, the video games, I hope they start to respect the audience a little bit more. Because even though I do say we should give some of these people some grace, I don't want that to be misconstrued, that if you don't start changing and start respecting the customer a little bit more, the customer has the right to not support your product and to not buy your product. And so I just hope that we keep all those things in mind. And, I hope everyone just takes a step back, can have open dialogue with people they disagree with without thinking they're the worst people in the world. Stop demonizing half the country. And we can all just come together, tell some awesome stories, and not feel bad about, loving our country and our fellow man if they agree with us or not. I think that's a pretty positive, I think that's pretty honest thing to answer or to say. And I would like us to get back to having the number one true patriot American hero and it not be someone else's country that has literally the best American hero, which is All Might. And he's Japanese. We got to do better, guys. We got to do better. Like I said, I hope y'all encourage y'all, read new things, buy new things, explore new things, Rippaverse, indie comics, Image, DC, Marvel, whatever it is. Open your horizons, explore new things, read new things, and just have fun this year, guys. I think this is going to be a really good year. I think we're going to transition. I'm hoping we transition to not have every couple months being a historical event, but we'll have to see. But guys, what about you? What are your thoughts? Did you disagree with some of the things that I said? Let me know about it. Let's have that conversation. Did you agree with some of the things that I said? What are your hopes for the year of 2025? Go down in the comments, write it down. Let me know what you think. And guys, whatever you're doing, wherever you're going, I hope you're having a good one. Peace.